Welcome to the Extracts of Why Has Nobody Told Me This Before? By Julie Smith. Everyday Tools for Life's Ups and Downs. Introduction. No one is always happy. Fluctuating moods are a universal part of the human experience. But sometimes, when a bad mood lasts for a long time or comes back too often, we tend to believe that it's because of a rewiring in our brain and that we have no control over our pain emotions. Dr. Julie Smith, clinical psychologist and social media star, is here to show us that we can control our emotions. His book, Why Has No One Ever Told Me This Before?, describes strategies for managing our mental health in our daily lives. It shows us that we have more control over our mental health than most of us are taught to believe. In this excerpt, we outline some of the most important and accessible strategies you can implement today that will help you develop resilience and become better at controlling your mood over time. When you find that your mental well-being is closer than it seems, you may be asking yourself, why hasn't anyone ever told me this before?
Before we begin, we publish new content every week, so be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about the latest extracts. Our videos can be a bit longer sometimes because we never compromise on the content of the book and video. Therefore, it's important to watch the video till the end. Let's get started.
Extract 1. Lay the foundation for powerful mental well-being by becoming aware of how your feelings arise. As Dr. Julie worked with patients who were in a persistently bad mood, she noticed some common thought patterns. It often seemed to his patients that their bad moods came out of nowhere or that their brains were just defective. It seemed that other people were born with the ability to be happy, but for them it was unattainable. These beliefs prevented her from taking charge of her mental health. But let's take a closer look at how bad moods can set in. Suppose you've been working late and worried about a fast-approaching deadline. You finally make it to bed but are too tired to think about your usual glass of water before bed. You spend the night tossing and turning and worrying about your deadline. You drift off into a light, restless sleep, only to be woken up by your frighteningly loud alarm clock. You wake up irritable, exhausted, and with stress hormones seeping into your body. In short, you're in a bad mood. It's easy to see why, isn't it? Your bad mood doesn't come out of nowhere. You're stressed, not sleeping, and dehydrated. Of course, not all low moods arise from a dehydrated night of tossing and turning. However, it is important to understand that emotions are constructed by a variety of factors, many of which we can influence. When you're in a bad mood, it's more likely that you have an unmet need and not a brain malfunction. So the first step to alleviating a persistent bad mood is to think about what those unmet needs are. Maybe Dr. Julie helps her patients develop this awareness over time by asking them questions that help them figure out what's going on in their bodies and minds. Once she and her patient have begun to reduce the thoughts, behaviors, and environmental stressors that contribute to poor mood, the patient can begin to address these unmet needs. Some of these questions include, what exactly are you thinking when your bad mood shows up? When do these thoughts start to arise? What other physical sensations have you experienced? What did you do in the week leading up to the low mood? These are questions that you can ask yourself, too. Emotional hindsight is a skill that can be built outside of the therapy context. Dr. Julie recommends keeping a journal that focuses on both positive and negative experiences and detailing the thoughts, emotions, physical sensations, and circumstances leading up to those experiences. Gradually, this will help you to see patterns over time and the specific factors that contributed to a particular mood. Let's just say that this exercise in becoming a little more aware of your feelings will help you to identify an easily fixable cause of mood swings. You may find that you regularly think, I'm a loser, right after scrolling through social media. This endorsement gives you an actionable hint on how to get rid of that feeling, simply by removing certain apps or unfollowing people who inspire unfavorable feelings of comparison. Well, building this awareness of how feelings are created will not bring clarity or solutions to all painful emotions. Some issues are more complex and may require professional help, and that's okay. But if that's the case, an increased awareness of your feelings and their origins will still help you work with your therapist to improve your bad mood. Remember, feelings aren't just in your head, they are in your body, your circumstances, your past and present, and the influences you surround yourself with. The more practice you have at breaking down the factors that interact to create your emotions, the easier it will be for you to spot the changes that are within your reach. Extract 2. Turn a bad mood into a better mood by focusing on good enough decisions. One of the reasons we can get stuck in prolonged low mood is that painful moods they can prevent us from making good decisions. We feel depressed and crave instant relief, leading us to make decisions that aren't always helpful in the long run. It's the need to choose junk food over a more nutritious meal, or call in sick because you're stressed just to shift the workload onto your future self. If we pay attention to this impulse to make the simplest choice, we will often blame ourselves for making the wrong choice. This keeps us in a vicious circle of bad moods. Why do we do this when we know what the right decision is in most cases? Well, one reason is that making the right decisions is often easier said than done. It's just harder to get up and go to work than it is to hide under the covers, especially when we're in a bad mood. The other problem is a tendency toward perfectionism, and it's not helpful at all for healing. Perfectionism causes us to fixate on the perfect decision and then beat ourselves up for not having made it yet. Perfectionism stands in the way of real change when it comes to addressing a long-standing bad mood. One way to counteract both of these problems is to focus on making good enough decisions. The key here is to strive for small, continuous gains, not grand gestures or big changes in your life. For example, it's well known that physical activity can make a big difference in your mental health, but it can be a lot. It's hard to commit to an intense exercise program when you're not used to it. Dr. Julio's advice: don't worry if you're going from no exercise to an hour of cardio a day. The cardio hour a day might seem like the right decision, but the good enough decision is to build light exercise into your day that you actually enjoy. Don't go to the gym for a joyless exertion on the treadmill if it fills you with anxiety. Instead, start with activities that you can repeat, such as brisk walks around the neighborhood with your favorite podcast. When you're in a bad mood and the long list of things to do is overwhelming, just choose one small action that you know is good for you and promise yourself you will do it every day. Will do so. Brisk walk around the neighborhood. You may not see a significant boost in mood right away, but you are doing something more important. You are actually laying the groundwork for new pathways in your brain that make exercise second nature. You remember that you can still develop good habits. And once you maintain good habits, they in turn maintain your sanity. What if you successfully develop a good, healthy habit, but then over time your commitment wanes and you drop it? Try not to criticize yourself. Happens. Be compassionate and uplifting with yourself as you would a friend who is going through a difficult time. You can try again tomorrow. It'll be easier next time because you've done it before. Extract 3. Learning how to manage anxiety will open up your life. Incrementally choosing healthy behaviors is also the most effective way to deal with anxiety. When you struggle with fear, you know it's no fun. At best it's cumbersome, and at worst it can take over your life entirely. Since anxiety is something we all experience, it's not surprising that one of Dr. Julie's how to make it go away. Dealing with fear is about facing your fears. The most enticing way to deal with anxiety is to run away from it by avoiding the situations that trigger it. But that's the thing about fear: the more we avoid it, the more we nurture it in the long run. And what's worse, when we let fear dictate our choices, our lives get smaller and smaller. Let's say you've started feeling anxious in crowded places during the pandemic. So you started avoiding crowded areas. So you felt uncomfortable on public transport and in supermarkets, so you decided to avoid them too. After a while, you became unwilling to spend time with people you didn't know well. Eventually, her fear has created a situation where she can hardly leave the house. So how do you get your life back? The key is to take it easy on yourself and not reintroduce all the anxiety-provoking situations at once. This will likely overwhelm your brain and make you give up. Pick one that feels more manageable and start there. Go back to a supermarket, sit down with the fear, get out, and give yourself time to recover. Repeat the next day and watch as your confidence gradually grows over time. Once you can go to the supermarket without the strong urge to run, reintroduce the next element in your life, e.g., public transport. As long as you don't flood yourself with fear, you can reclaim your life layer by layer. The same approach of gradually confronting your fears will build your confidence. Even if you're not particularly fearful but want to be braver, your confidence will grow over time if you find the courage to face the things that make you anxious. As long as you do it gradually and repeatedly, with enough recovery time, and not put yourself in situations that make you feel anxious, panic. Remember that courage precedes trust. You have to face your fears to overcome them. Fear is part of every new situation you find yourself in, every creative risk you take, and every learning experience. So if you want to live a life of creativity, risk and growth, it's important to face fear. Okay, that's all well and good in theory, but what if you're trying to boost your confidence, but find yourself in a situation where your anxiety is rising and seems to get the better of you? What if you thought you were ready to go to the grocery store but were hyperventilating in the aisle? Don't worry, you're not alone. Many of Dr. Julie's patients experience these types of flare-ups when they first enter her practice, so one of the first skills she often teaches new patients is a technique called square breathing. It is an easy-to-learn practice from Dr. Julie's toolkit that can help you in any situation where fear could turn into panic. The best part, you can do it anywhere and no one will know you're doing it. Here's how it works. First, find something square, a window, a picture frame, anything with 4 corners. Then look at the bottom left corner of the square. And on your inhale, count to 4 while moving your eyes upper left corner. Hold your breath for 4 seconds and move your eyes to the upper right corner. Exhale for 4 seconds while moving your eyes to the lower right corner. Hold your breath again for 4 seconds while moving your eyes to the lower left corner. That's it. Deep breaths calm your anxiety, and following the square ensures you breathe long enough for the benefits to kick in. Give it a try the next time you feel the panic building. Extract 4. Ask for help when you need it and learn to give it in return. Ask for help can be difficult. Cultural taboos, expensive therapists, and lack of availability are barriers to seeking professional mental health services. But sometimes, asking for help from people we know can be especially difficult. Unfortunately, that's because depression often makes us withdraw from people when we need it most. It's common to think that showing the people around you that you have problems is a burden. Then you withdraw from people, believing that your depressed self will only depress other people. But here's a powerful thing to remember the next time you feel this way: the positive effects of social support goes both ways. Studies suggest that when someone offers even minimal social support to another person, it changes their brain chemistry in a way that allows them to experience positive emotions like courage and hope themselves. It may even help them with the harmful effects of trauma and chronic stress. Yes, that's right. You will benefit yourself and your loved ones if you let them help you when you need it. Knowing this, don't be afraid to call your loved ones when the need arises. Back to bottom, human connection is one of the most powerful tools we have to maintain our mental connection, and social isolation only makes depression worse. It can be difficult at first. You may feel like you have little or nothing to say. Okay, share any thoughts you can handle, or just be with people, look at them, or take a leisurely walk together. Research has shown us that even when we don't feel like being with other people, it's still helpful to just be around other people who care. At some point in your life, you're probably in the opposite situation. You worry about someone else who is having a hard time. Supporting someone you love who is struggling can be stressful and make you feel inadequate. However, remember that caring for others during times of stress is also a way to heal ourselves. Here are some tips from Dr. Julie who can help you feel more secure in your supportive role. First, don't forget the power of simply being with someone who is depressed. Signing up and showing that you care can be very helpful. If you don't know what to say or how to help, ask how you can support them. Often a person you support knows what they need. What they don't always realize is that there is someone in their life who is willing to help them. And if your loved one has a specific diagnosis, be sure to read it for more specific advice on the specific challenges they are facing. Then help them with practical matters. Someone in emotional pain can feel overwhelmed by something as simple as washing dishes or dinner. Discreetly helping your friend with small tasks like this can bring significant relief. Listen to your loved one with compassion and openness, and try not to offer advice unless you ask them. They're likely to feel more respected and listened to if instead you reflect what they've been told. And don't be afraid to change the subject from time to time. Caring for someone doesn't mean you have to focus on their problems all the time. Distraction and new input can also be helpful for them. The human connection is one of the strongest defenses we have against a bad mood. Studies show that good relationships protect our physical and emotional well-being throughout our lives. When it comes to making us happy, relationships are far more important than money, fame, social class, genes, and all the status traits we've learned to fight for. What if you don't have anyone in your personal life to call right now? Don't worry, it's never too late to make meaningful connections. Therapists can help you learn or regain this ability. When you work on yourself, your relationships improve, and when you work on your relationships, your mental health improves. Final summary. In this extracts, we examine how we can improve our overall mental well-being by seeking out the unmet needs that cause emotional pain and focusing on good enough decisions that gradually take us their lead where we want to be by facing our fears, to build our confidence and keep fears at bay, and by nurturing our relationships and caring for one another when we're feeling down. Please note, while this excerpt contains strategies on how we can help improve our mental health, however, sometimes professional help is required. If you are concerned about your mental health, seek professional support from a therapist. If professional services aren't available to you, find resources to learn as much as you can about recovery and make sure you have the support of trusted family members.
Got feedback? We'd love to hear from you about our content. Just share your thoughts and book recommendations in the comments section, and be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about the latest extracts. Thank you and have a great day.